Captain Jason Reed had never seen a jungle like Scifi 9. From the moment he stepped off his ship, the air was thick with humidity, and the scent of strange flowers and wet earth filled his lungs. The trees stretched higher than any he had seen before, their trunks wide and twisted with vines that seemed to move in the gentle breeze. Birds with feathers that shimmered like glass flitted through the canopy, and insects larger than his fist buzzed around him. It was beautiful, but it was also dangerous. Jason's mission was simple on paper. Explore Scifi 9, catalog its flora and fauna, and report any signs of intelligent life. But simple missions rarely stayed simple. He moved carefully, cutting a path through the dense undergrowth with his survival knife. Every step he took seemed to echo in the silence, the jungle listening, observing. After hours of walking, Jason noticed something unusual. The vines were twisted in patterns that looked deliberate, almost like writing. Curious, he followed the symbols deeper into the jungle. As he moved, he found small structures made from leaves and branches, clever and intricate. Clearly, something or someone had built them. It wasn't long before Jason saw her. She was unlike any creature he had ever encountered. A young alien girl stood on a fallen tree, her movements fluid and precise as she balanced with the skill of someone who had grown up in the wild. Her skin had a faint, iridescent glow that caught the sunlight, and her hair, long and dark, flowed down her back. She wore nothing which seemed natural in this world. Jason froze, unsure how to approach without frightening her. The girl noticed him immediately. Her eyes, wide and curious, studied him with equal parts fear and interest. She crouched, ready to run or fight, her hands gripping the tree bark. Jason raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. He spoke softly, even though he didn't know if she would understand. "Hello," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girl tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. Then, in a sudden burst of motion, she jumped down and disappeared into the thick foliage. Jason followed cautiously. He didn't want to scare her, but he needed to know more. After all, she was clearly intelligent, and she could be the first sign of intelligent life on Scifi 9. For the next hour, Jason tracked her through the jungle. He saw her fishing in a small stream, using a sharpened stick with precision, and watched as she climbed a tree to grab fruits he had never seen before. Her movements were so natural, so skilled, that Jason realized she had been living here all her life. She didn't just survive, she thrived. Finally, she stopped near a waterfall and turned to face him. Her posture was defensive, but there was no aggression. Jason took a deep breath and approached slowly. "My name is Jason," he said. "I come from far away. I'm a human." The girl's eyes widened again. She seemed to understand some words, perhaps not the exact meaning, but the intent. Jason knelt, putting himself at her level. He offered some of the food he had brought, simple rations from his pack. The girl hesitated, then cautiously took a piece of dried fruit. She tasted it, then looked at him with what Jason could only interpret as curiosity. Over the next few hours, Jason sat near her, showing her that he meant no harm. He used gestures, simple pictures he drew in the dirt, and even mimed actions to communicate. Slowly, the girl began to relax. She even allowed him to sit closer than before. Jason realized something important. While she was clearly intelligent and skilled, she had no knowledge of human tools or clothing. She didn't understand concepts like protection from the elements or that certain plants could be harmful. He knew he could teach her, not to control her, but to give her more choices and options. The idea came to him slowly, like a spark. He would take her to a nearby settlement, a place where humans lived, to give her basic supplies, clothing, tools, and other items that might help her. She didn't have to change who she was, but she could learn. When he suggested this, she froze, unsure what to make of it. Jason smiled gently, hoping to calm her. It's not about leaving your home, he explained, using gestures and words together. It's about learning, about seeing another world. She stared at him, then at the jungle around her. Her eyes flickered between curiosity and fear. After a long pause, she nodded slightly, the closest thing to agreement Jason had seen so far. He didn't press further. The journey to the settlement began the next morning. Jason led the way, cutting paths through the dense foliage and pointing out plants that were edible and those that were dangerous. She followed closely, watching him, learning. Occasionally, she mimicked his movements, showing remarkable memory and adaptability. Along the way, Jason learned more about her. Her name was Lyra, and while she couldn't speak like humans, she had her own complex language of gestures and sounds. She lived entirely alone, surviving by instinct, intelligence, and knowledge passed down from her ancestors through non-verbal means. Jason was fascinated. Here was a being so different, yet so capable, and he couldn't help but feel admiration. As they walked, Lyra pointed at small creatures, making sounds that seemed like questions. Jason realized she was asking what they were, whether they were dangerous. He pointed and named them slowly, teaching her simple words and concepts. She repeated them in her own way, a mixture of chirps and whistles. Jason smiled. This was more than survival. It was exchange, understanding, the beginning of friendship. The journey wasn't easy. They faced sudden storms that turned streams into rivers, thorny undergrowth that tore at their skin, and creatures that watched them from the shadows. Through it all, Jason protected Lyra, and she learned quickly how to follow his lead. She had agility and reflexes he could only envy, and she taught him how to move silently through the jungle, how to sense changes in the air, and even how to spot hidden predators. By the third day, they reached the edge of a plateau overlooking the human settlement. Jason could see simple structures, walls of metal and stone, and small vehicles moving about. Lyra stared, wide-eyed. Everything was new, strange, and overwhelming. Jason knelt beside her, explaining gently. "This is where humans live," he said. "It is different from your jungle. It is safe and you can learn many things here." Lyra's eyes darted around, taking it all in. She seemed both fascinated and nervous. Jason could understand why. It was a lot to process, and she had no prior experience with anything like this. He decided to take it slow, giving her time to absorb, to understand, and to trust that this world could be a place of knowledge, not danger. They descended carefully toward the settlement, avoiding the main paths to prevent startling anyone. Jason had prepared for this moment, knowing that first impressions mattered. They reached a quiet area near the outskirts, and he pointed to a small building. "This is where we will get supplies," he explained. "Clothing, tools, food, things that can help you, not change who you are." Lyra hesitated, looking at him with her alien eyes. Jason smiled reassuringly, handing her a piece of fruit. She tasted it, then seemed to relax slightly. He motioned toward the building again, and after a moment she followed. Inside, the building was filled with items she had never seen, different fabrics, containers, and simple tools. Jason explained each item carefully, showing how it could be used. Lyra touched everything cautiously, her fingers brushing against fabrics and smooth surfaces. She seemed fascinated, curious about how things worked, and eager to learn. The process of choosing clothing was both humorous and enlightening. Lyra tried on garments awkwardly, struggling with buttons and ties. Jason laughed softly, helping her adjust, explaining that clothing could be practical and comfortable. She looked at herself in a reflective surface and tilted her head, intrigued by her own reflection. It was a moment of discovery, of understanding, and it made Jason feel a deep sense of satisfaction. By the end of the day, Lyra had chosen a few simple clothes, a small bag for tools, and some containers for carrying food and water. Jason showed her how to wear the clothing, how to use the tools, and how to carry items safely. She was quick to learn, adapting to new concepts with remarkable skill. As the sun set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Jason and Lyra stepped outside. The settlement was quiet now, and they could see the jungle in the distance, a reminder of where she belonged. Jason smiled at her. "You have learned much today," he said. "Tomorrow we will continue. There is more to see, more to learn, but you are ready for now." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. She had crossed a threshold, stepping into a world she had never known, guided by a human who respected her, taught her, and protected her. The bond between them had grown stronger, built on trust, curiosity, and mutual respect. As they returned to the edge of the settlement to rest for the night, Jason thought about the future. There was so much more to teach her, so much more to discover together. And he knew, without a doubt, that humans had something special to offer: empathy, knowledge, and the ability to help others grow while respecting who they truly were. The jungle behind them and the settlement ahead, the adventure had only just begun. The next morning, Jason woke to the sound of birds singing outside their temporary shelter at the edge of the settlement. The jungle behind them seemed alive with movement. But today, Lyra was more focused on the strange world around her. She had slept through the night in one of the simple garments Jason had helped her put on the previous day. It was soft, light, and allowed her to move freely, yet offered protection she had never known she needed. She had woken up curious, her eyes scanning the settlement with cautious wonder. Jason smiled when he saw her examining a human water pump. "Do you want to try it?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head, then cautiously approached. Jason showed her how to use the pump, demonstrating slowly. She imitated his movements, dipping her hands into the water and feeling the cool liquid trickle down. A small laugh escaped her, a sound so pure and curious that Jason felt a warmth he had not expected. It was a laugh of discovery, of understanding a world so different from her own. After breakfast, Jason suggested they go shopping. Lyra looked puzzled. She had never seen such a place, never used money, and had no idea what it meant to buy something. Jason explained slowly, using gestures and words together. "We need things to help you live safely. You will choose what you want. This is called shopping." He drew pictures in the dirt to show the process, pointing to clothes, containers, and other useful items. Lyra's eyes widened, and she tilted her head thoughtfully. She had learned to trust Jason, and even though she didn't fully understand, she followed him as he led her to the marketplace. The settlement's market was busy. Humans moved quickly, exchanging goods and money, their voices loud but friendly. The smells were new to her. Breads, fruits, metal, and spices mingled in ways she could not recognize. Jason held her hand gently, guiding her through the crowds. "We go slowly," he said. Lyra nodded, taking everything in with sharp eyes. Every sound, every color, every movement was a lesson, and she absorbed it all. Their first stop was clothing. Lyra hesitated at the racks, staring at the fabrics. Jason picked up a simple tunic and held it out. "Try this," he said. She reached out, feeling the texture. It was soft, light, and unlike anything she had worn before. She mimicked what Jason showed her, slipping it over her head. It was awkward at first, but Jason guided her hands, and soon it fit. She looked at her reflection in a polished metal panel, eyes wide, and then laughed softly, fascinated by her own image. Next, Jason showed her shoes. Lyra examined them carefully, holding them in her hands. She had never worn anything on her feet, and the concept seemed strange. Jason demonstrated, putting a shoe on his foot, then showing her how to tie it. Lyra copied him, struggling a little but succeeding. She looked down at her feet, then up at Jason, eyes sparkling. She was proud of herself, and Jason was proud too. As they moved through the market, Lyra's curiosity grew. She pointed at a basket of fruit, then at the containers nearby. Jason explained the idea of carrying things in a bag, and she quickly learned to scoop fruit into the container. She mimicked everything with eagerness, her mind learning faster than he expected. Some humans stared at her, unsure what to make of this alien girl. Jason noticed but ignored it. He focused on her, explaining, teaching, and protecting. "Ignore them," he said gently. "They will learn to respect you, just like I do." Lyra nodded, understanding more than he thought she could. By midday, they had collected a few sets of clothes, containers, and small tools. Jason showed her how to use a simple knife safely for cutting fruit and other tasks. She watched intently, her small hands careful, her movements precise. It was fascinating to Jason to see how quickly she adapted. She learned not just from instruction, but by observing and trying. Lunch was another adventure. Jason took her to a small eatery where humans served prepared meals. Lyra had never seen food cooked like this. She watched the steam rise, the colors of the dishes, and the smells. Jason ordered simple items, explaining each ingredient as it came. Lyra tried everything cautiously, tasting and reacting with surprise and delight. Some flavors were strange, others familiar in a way she could relate to the fruits of her jungle. She laughed as a small bit of spice made her eyes water, and Jason laughed with her, happy to see her enjoying something so ordinary for humans, but extraordinary for her. After lunch, Jason took her to a stall with tools and gadgets. Lyra's eyes lit up at the objects. Small containers with buttons, simple machines for carrying things, even little mechanical devices that fascinated her. Jason explained each one carefully, showing how it could help her in the jungle. Lyra examined everything, touching, twisting, and turning, learning quickly. She asked questions with her gestures, pointing and looking at him with those sharp, intelligent eyes. Jason answered, careful to teach without overwhelming her. As the day went on, Jason and Lyra formed a rhythm. Jason showed, Lyra observed, then tried. Mistakes happened, of course, but they became moments of laughter and learning. At one point, she dropped a container, and it rolled away. She darted after it, but the container tipped over. Instead of being upset, she laughed, and Jason laughed with her. It was a lesson in patience, in not fearing mistakes, and in enjoying the process of learning. The last stop was a clothing stall with colorful scarves and fabrics. Lyra was mesmerized. She touched each piece, holding it up to her body, draping it around herself. Jason explained that these were not just clothes. They could be decoration, protection, and expression. Lyra experimented, twisting, wrapping, and even tying a piece around her head. She looked at Jason, then at herself in the reflection, and her eyes sparkled with pride. She had created something new, combining human tools with her own instincts and style. By the end of the day, Lyra had learned more than Jason had expected. She had clothes she could wear, tools to help her, containers for food, and a basic understanding of how humans lived. But more than that, she had learned that humans could be kind, patient, and respectful. She had learned that learning did not mean losing her identity. Walking back to the edge of the jungle, Lyra paused. She looked at the settlement, then at the trees behind her. She smiled at Jason, her expression a mixture of excitement and understanding. She had crossed into a world she had never known, and she had taken a piece of it back with her, not as a replacement for her home, but as a gift. Jason smiled back. "You did very well today," he said. "I am proud of you." Lyra nodded, her eyes bright. She had learned, adapted, and grown, and she had done so with joy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the jungle in gold and orange light, Jason and Lyra sat together on a fallen log. The sounds of the jungle surrounded them, the rustle of leaves, the calls of unseen creatures, the gentle flow of a nearby stream. It was familiar, comforting, and now mixed with the lessons of the human world. Lyra held one of the scarves she had chosen, feeling the fabric and understanding its purpose. She draped it over her shoulders, then looked at Jason. He nodded in approval. Together, they had bridged two worlds, the wild, untamed jungle and the structured, curious human settlement. Jason realized something important. This was not just about teaching her human ways. It was about sharing knowledge, building trust, and showing that humans could help without taking away freedom. Lyra had learned, yes, but she had also taught him. Her instinct, her intelligence, and her adaptability reminded him why humans could be extraordinary, not just in technology or skill, but in understanding, empathy, and respect. As night fell, they prepared to camp at the edge of the settlement. Lyra practiced using her new containers, arranging her supplies, and even testing the clothes she had learned to wear. Jason watched her with pride. She was ready to return to the jungle with knowledge that would help her, not hinder her. She was still Lyra, wild and free, but now she had tools and understanding that would make her life easier and safer. Before sleep, Lyra reached out and touched Jason's hand in a gesture of thanks. It was simple, yet full of meaning. She had crossed boundaries, learned new ways, and had been treated with kindness and respect. Jason squeezed her hand gently, feeling a bond that was stronger than any language. It was trust, friendship, and mutual respect. The stars appeared overhead, bright and endless, reflecting the infinite possibilities of the universe. Jason knew this was just the beginning. There would be more lessons, more discoveries, more laughter. Lyra would continue to grow, blending the best of her jungle instincts with the wisdom of humans, showing that life, no matter where it came from, could learn, adapt, and thrive. And as the night wrapped the jungle and settlement in quiet calm, Jason felt certain that humans could be more than explorers. They could be teachers, friends, and guides, showing that courage, patience, and understanding were as important as any technology. Lyra drifted to sleep under the stars, her mind filled with new knowledge, new experiences, and the warmth of a human friend who had shown her a world she had never imagined. Tomorrow they would continue, exploring, learning, and sharing. And in that partnership, both human and alien would grow stronger, wiser, and more connected to the universe around them. The jungle and the settlement existed side by side now, a balance of wild freedom and thoughtful learning. And in that balance, Lyra found a new kind of strength, one that would stay with her forever.